All right, I have 11:02, so we will go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Rebecca Bilderback, and I'm the Kansas LTAP Director, and welcome to our LTAP webinar series, The Roundabout.
I'm doing
Please feel free to add your names in the chat box so we can all get acquainted. And in the meantime, I'll just go over some housekeeping rules before introducing today's speaker. Just so you know, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel. And please remember to keep yourself muted unless you're directly engaging with the webinar conversation. So for today's webinar, we'll be hearing from Jason Fazell. Jason is the Contracts and Operations Specialist for the Kansas Infrastructure Hub. He most recently served as Housing Development Liaison and directed the Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance Program at Kansas Housing. Previously, he served as the Business Development Manager at the Sunflower Foundation, Development Manager at the St. Francis Health Foundation, Executive Director of the Kansas Land Trust, and District Director for U.S. Representative Nancy Boyda. He has over 25 years of experience in nonprofit management and grant writing and administration. Jason holds a bachelor's in history of science and in environmental history from the University of Kansas, so Rock Chalk. And with that, I will hand it over to Jason.
Great. Well, thank you, Rebecca and Randy, for the invite to present today. I noticed some familiar names on the participant list, so this might be old hat for some folks, but I am just going to take about 15, maybe 20 minutes to give you an update about the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, how we're structured and function, and then just some of our recent dashboards and how we are progressing. So with that, I will start. Our focus is, you may have heard of us as either the Kansas Infrastructure Hub or heard of the Build Kansas Fund, which I'll get into in a moment. But our focus is really on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BIL. And it's a national infrastructure investment across 5 years, $1.2 trillion, and our goal is really to bring more of those federal dollars into the state of Kansas. So that Build Kansas Fund, which we administer, helps supply those local match dollars that are often required for federal grants. We are multi-agency, multi-sector effort. So we have 3 water agencies: the Department of Agriculture, Division of Water Resources, Kansas Water Office, and then Kansas Department of Health and Environment. Of course, some of these are self-evident: Kansas Department of Transportation for transportation, Department of Commerce is on for broadband, Kansas Corporation Commission is our energy sector, and then Office of Information and Technology Services is for cybersecurity. We also have, so that is our, those agencies make up our steering committee, which meets twice a month and helps review our Build Kansas Fund proposals that come in. They're kind of the first pass, and help break down those silos between the different agencies and make sure that we're coordinating closely together. Really the second rung then that considers the proposals for the Build Kansas Fund is our Legislative Advisory Committee. And I should say that the Kansas Infrastructure Hub and the Build Kansas Fund were set up by the legislature and the governor who signed the bill in order to provide this support. So, and you can see by their involvement, continuing involvement, that they're very invested in making sure that this is a successful effort. So we have 4 roles that we serve, both as a capacity builder. I'll touch on our technical assistance team here in a moment, really as a connector to bring those 8 state agencies that I just talked about together with the communities and other partners, to advocate for infrastructure investment across the state and with our national agency funding partners. And then more recently, I've really added this innovator and planner role to see how, what role we can play longer term as IIJA starts to sunset and we look at the future of infrastructure investment in the state. So a 3-pronged approach to this. I've mentioned a couple of these already, and I'll get into in more detail in a second. But our technical assistance is really focused on helping everything from soup to nuts for grants. So help research and keep an eye open for grant opportunities, identify those grant opportunities as they match with potential projects out there across the state, then to help develop those projects so that they can be successful in applying for federal dollars. And then offering application advice. We can help review applications. I say the technical assistance, our team there can do everything, just about everything except write the grant for you. That's one thing that we stay out of just because we want to not compete with the private sector consultants that provide that service in the state, and then also our economic development districts that provide grant writing service. But that is why we stood up in the last couple of years our grant assistance program, and that is providing grant dollars to provide either grant writing assistance or grant administration assistance once those grants are administered, because we found those are the two biggest barriers for our small cities and counties to apply for federal grants. And so in that case, what we can do is provide money for you to hire a grant writer of your choosing or a grant administrator after a grant is awarded to help administer those grants for you. And then finally, our Build Kansas Fund, and this is where a lot of the interest is, just because it's where the money's at. This is where the legislature set aside $100 million to provide that local match support for federal grant applications. I'll just spend a little bit more time on each of those now. Technical assistance team. This is our entire team. The three of us on the left are state employees that are based out of Topeka. Sean Wessner is our executive director. You see myself on there, and then Jessica Pierce. She works a lot on the back end for once you're awarded a Build Kansas Fund grant or grant assistance program or GAP grant on that reimbursement process. And then our technical assistance team, we have technical assistance providers assigned to each of the economic development districts across the state. So folks here by region. Now, normally if I'm presenting out in a region, I focus in on the one and provide their cell phone number and an email address. And I don't do that today because I know folks are all across the state, but did show here, and I will have at the end of the presentation, if you just email us at hub@ks.gov, we can put you in touch with the technical assistance provider for your region, or go to our website, kshub.gov, and we have a technical assistance tab there that provides a link to their contact information. But really a great team. I know some, again, notice some familiar names on the call. You've worked with some of these folks, and they can help provide a lot of that technical assistance for you. Then again, our grant assistance program, this is again to provide addressing some of those grant application hurdles that we've heard about. It is limited to only IIJA related grants, and I should make that point clear. So it has to be a Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act grant that you're pursuing to get this assistance. And it is for cities and counties, cities of less than 10,000 or counties of less than 50,000. And we do have $500,000 available per year. We're about 2/3 of the way through that for this year, and then that'll start over again come July 1st with the new state fiscal year. And that makes me think I need to go back to technical assistance. This is something that we can help with any grant, federal, state, local, corporate, foundation. So our team is not limited to just IIJA grants. They can help with any grant. I should have made that point earlier. Grant assistance program. And this are some of the awards we've made for this fiscal year for both grant writing and grant administrative assistance. And then our Build Kansas Fund, and this is $100 million. I'll touch on that a little bit, and we're waiting as the legislature wraps up their session to hear what we get for this last fiscal year. But they had, when they set it up, a goal of having 10 million distributed in each of those economic development districts, and you see that map on the right hand side. Again, that's how we've targeted our technical assistance, and we also are really focusing on getting out assistance spread across the state. And I will have a heat map later showing how we've done that. But it is, IIJA only has a 4-year lifespan expectancy, and that is expiring September 30th of this year. There are still grants that are just opening up. I'll touch on the Safe Streets and Roads for All here at the end of my presentation, but that just opened up and is due at the end of May. So there are still grant opportunities that are becoming available under that, and will be through the end of the federal fiscal year. So this is our performance so far by economic development district. We've been very successful in the Southwest and the Great Plains region. We still have more work to do in the Northwest. You'll see there's 2 numbers in each region. The first is what has the match that matches the federal grants that have actually been awarded. The number on the right are those federal grants that have been submitted, but we're awaiting federal award notification. So, you know, we still have a lot that are out there, and because of the change in administration in the last year, there has been a slowdown, and there was a pause for a while of grant notices coming out, but we are again seeing that pick up quite a bit now as well. One thing that the Legislative Advisory Committee has implemented with the Build Kansas Fund is originally it was providing all of that non-federal match. They did want to see the local applicants to have some, what they're calling skin in the game, just some participation in it. It can be either the form of cash or in-kind contributions, but they are now asking local entities to come up with 5% of the non-federal match. So to give an example of that, because some people misunderstand that sometimes, if it's a $1 million project or federal grant ask, and the non-federal match requirement is 20%, that's $200,000 that has to be supplied locally or by the state. And what we're just asking is that the locals come up with 5% of the match. So $10,000, the Build Kansas Fund can provide the other 95% of that, or the $190,000 in that example. One thing we like to note is even through that steering committee and legislative advisory committee process and the technical assistance that we provide, is we're not out there to select the projects. There is certainly some requirements that must be met, and the legislative advisory committee, you know, has tabled some applications that didn't in their mind meet those requirements. But really we're leaving it to the federal agencies that these projects are submitted to select what is funded. We are just providing that kind of notice of intent for awarding the Build Kansas funds if those projects are awarded by the federal government. Also make it clear that it's additive. We're not a gatekeeper here. Communities can apply for federal grants without applying for Build Kansas Fund or without taking advantage of our technical assistance program. With that, I might stop for a second to see if there's any questions on our programs themselves. And I guess, Rebecca, I didn't ask if we're equipped to do that now. If not, I can keep going and we can do it at the end. But if folks have any questions now, we can jump into that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. If anybody has questions, don't hesitate to ask, but we'll definitely still save room at the end for questions as well.
Sure.
Feel free to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat.
And I can't see the chat, so you'll have to let me know if anything pops up there, but.
Gotcha. I'm not seeing anything right now.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going. We do just want to touch on, you know, because this is state tax dollars, it does come from the state general fund, just to provide an update of where we stand currently. The federal grants, we've had 92 applications that have been awarded for $51 million. We're awaiting federal award on 18 applications that total $38 million. So if, and this slide doesn't add it up, I think one of my later ones does, but that's it's about $90 million of that 100 million is currently spoken for. But we've had a great success rate, 73% of those that we've or that our local and county partners have submitted have been federally awarded. This just shows some return on investment. So of those that have been awarded, we've maintained a 214% return on investment. For those that were awaiting federal award, if all those are awarded, that will result in a 354% return on investment. This is just amongst those 6 sectors I touched on at the beginning of the presentation. This is kind of how it's sorted out in terms of where they've been awarded. And you'll see that it is transportation heavy in terms of the awards. A lot of that is and we had to use acronyms here just to fit them on the screen, but we've had a lot of AIG or airport infrastructure grants, as well as SS4A, which are the Safe Streets and Roads for All grants that have been awarded. Those are slightly smaller grants, but there's been a lot of them, and I'll show those in a moment. But have had a handful of water, a lot in energy, which is through the Kansas Corporation Commission administers the 4101D grant, grid resilience program. But you'll see in broadband and cybersecurity, there haven't been any grant awards. That's really a lot of that funding has gone out through other channels. So our broadband partners, they did, at the end of the year, announced they had a 210 million plus BEAD program, and I can never remember what that stands for. I know B is for broadband, but that is federal dollars that they've awarded. So a lot of that's happening separate from the infrastructure hub. And then our resilience, and this is the BRIC program, and this is one that we were very successful. Our first 2 projects, our first 3 projects that were awarded were through BRIC early on. It's the Building Resilience and Infrastructure and Communities program. And I like to point out too, well, actually, I'll get to this in a slide in a second, so I'll save that for later. But we've been successful there, and that program has just recently reopened as well. It was paused by the new administration and subject to some lawsuits, but it has just been reopened and is open for competition now. But this is some of the Safe Streets and Roads for All awards that have been received. I'd like to show this just to show it's really a lot of smaller communities, a lot of even regions and counties across the state that have banded together to obtain these awards. I'll have a map that I'll show at the end of my presentation here to show where these are distributed, but a lot of success there with Safe Streets and Roads for All. The airport infrastructure grants, again, a lot of smaller airports that I never knew existed around the state, and that really do struggle with upkeep of their runways and their electrical systems, and struggle with coming up with those matching dollars that are required. And so it's a program that existed before IIJA and will exist afterwards, but a lot of these airports, smaller airports, hadn't been able to take advantage of it until now, and until we were able to help provide the matching dollars for that. And then in transportation, we've got some railroad crossing elimination grants, RAISE grants, which is also BUILD, also known as BUILD over time. It's just changed names with the administration. Have had some grants there as well. This is the grid resilience program. Again, a lot of more rural areas, rural electric cooperatives around the state that have received those awards. And then the Building Resilient and Infrastructure and Communities, the BRIC Awards. I like to point this out simply because Ozaki, which is a community of less than 800 or around 800, received 2 awards for their water and wastewater system and their lagoon system upgrades. So just to show that it can really be done in smaller communities, and then as well as Russell received an award in that area as well. And then WaterSmart is another area that's recently reopened. There are some competitions this year. Some of those are not IIJA related, but some are. And Dodge City and Southwest Kansas Groundwater Management District have received some awards there as well. So this is our heat map that I referenced earlier, just showing where awards have been made. We are still wanting to make progress in the Northwest. We do have some outstanding grants that have been submitted and awaiting award in that area. So we hope those are successful. Also in Southeast, we'd like to see some more just so that we can make sure that we reach those goals of getting 10 million in each of the economic development districts. Like to show this just to show that We are, one of the charges we've had from the Legislative Advisory Committee is that we help focus on smaller rural communities in the western and southeastern part of the state. And so while our top 10 counties by population have received 37 awards, the bulk of our awards and funding has gone to the 95 counties that aren't in that top 10 as well. Also, there's been the question about implementation versus planning. I think the Legislative Advisory Committee was concerned that some of the grant programs, like Safe Streets and Roads for All, there are kind of, in that case, two approaches or two prongs that you can apply for: a planning grant to help you get those engineering studies in place in order to eventually go for a implementation grant. But really the bulk of our funding has gone towards implementation to, actually build the infrastructure. So we've seen some success there as well. And then actually, I should say this is a little bit out of date. We have in the last couple weeks received, I said we've got $10 million left in the Build Kansas Fund. We have received some notice that some weren't funded, and so that money was, when federal grants aren't funded, that money is recycled back into the Build Kansas Fund. So we do currently stand at about a $10 million balance in that fund through the remainder of the year. But I did allude to a couple times, we are waiting for our allocation for fiscal year 27 to help see us through the end of IIJA. And we're the 10 million is a question mark until the gavel comes down in the legislative session. But it looks like this year we'll be given $10 million to help see us through the end of that time period. And then just terms of looking ahead, Safe Streets and Roads for All is open now. I know this is in the transportation realm, which is where you all are coming from. So you're probably already aware of this. It's due May 26th. It is IIJA funded. So this is something that we have funded grant application or grant assistance program funds for to help with the grant writing. We've done quite a bit of technical assistance in this, and then awarded a number of Build Kansas Fund matching grants for this, because there is a 20% cost match requirement for these undertakings. And then did include this map. These are just the awards that have been made over the last 4 years for SS4A, and you see those regions that are highlighted where you have multi-counties kind of going in together. And certainly we've had success with a lot of individual cities and counties going in and putting in applications and being awarded, but really want to highlight the advantages of banding together as a multi-county or regional approach to this. Just we're finding a lot of more success on the federal level if in all infrastructure sectors, particularly in water and wastewater. A lot of times we have a lot of smaller cities and counties that need new, not water mains, water meters. And, a single city or county going in for water meters is probably not going to be successful at the federal level. But if you band together, it's more likely to be successful. So just really trying to emphasize that regionality. So that's kind of how our work is evolving. After the end of IIJA, we do have another year left on our office. So we will run through the end of the state fiscal year in 2027, so through June 30th of 2027 currently. And in that last year, we're really focusing on working through those regional development organizations or development districts, the RDDs, to encourage local cities and counties to band together on those regional approach to federal grant applications. We will be having our annual summit coming up, where that's really a focus. That's one of my last slides, just to encourage folks to apply for that or to sign up. And for that, it is a free event that's happening later this month. And then as a follow-on to that summit, we will be doing 8 regional workshops throughout the summer, just to encourage that kind of regionality in approaches. So really, you know, again, key takeaways, just trying to get folks to think big and work together on projects, take advantage of the technical assistance that we provide. Again, we can provide assistance on any grant application and assistance with grant administration post-award. So do seek out those technical assistance providers. And again, I'll put our email up on the end of the slideshow. But really just trying to get more, again, federal grant dollars into the state for infrastructure investments. So this is the summit taking place out in Hayes. I saw John Braun's on the call with us today. He's been a great partner out in Hayes. We're taking it out west this year. Last year we were in Lindsborg. So heading out a little farther west on April 29th. It's a Wednesday. Free event. We'll provide lunch, and again, just we'll be breaking out into regions to have folks talk about the priorities in their area, and we are asking folks to register by next Wednesday the 15th, and you can do so on our website. Again, that's kshub.gov. And here it is on the last screen. There's my email address. You're welcome to reach out to me directly, or our hub at ks.gov email address goes to everybody in the office, and that way we can connect you directly with your technical assistance provider as well. So with that, I'll end the slideshow and hand it back over to Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate it. I did want to open it up for questions. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask Jason while he's here, feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat.
I just want to thank Jason for doing this for us. I contacted him, I don't know, a month or so ago, and he was very happy to do it for us. So thank you very much, Jason.
Sure. Thank you, Randy. It's been a pleasure. And again, follow up with us if you have any questions. Thank you.
We have a question. Joined a few minutes late. Will your PowerPoint be available online later? This is recorded and it's going to be up on the Kansas LTAP YouTube page, so you can check it out there.
And you said, if you're okay with it, Rebecca, I can share the slides in the chat here real quick.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
You've got some housekeeping. It'll take me a second to PDF them, and then I'll put them in the chat.
No, that sounds great. Thank you. So while you're doing that, I just wanted to mention, looking ahead, our next Roundabout webinar is going to be on June 12th, and it will be led by Eric Deeger with KDOT, and he's going to be discussing right-of-way. So keep an eye out for that registration link when it becomes available.
All right, that didn't take you long. So if Amy, if you want to stay on the chat, I'm just putting them in. So it'll take me a second. I think I can drop in an attachment. I forget now with Teams. Well, actually, it looks like I can't. So Amy, I will follow up with you afterwards. I've got your email address, so I can email you the presentation.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jason, and thanks everybody for attending, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.